And here we are. Welcome to Pilates. It's going. Hey, Sutrita. We're going to start standing. So take your feet about hip width apart, shoulder distance apart. Find a nice, tall, standing posture. Abdominals in. We're going to start with our breathing. Inhale, reach nice and high. Get that range of motion in your shoulders. Exhale. Feel the stretch in your side here. It is just a side bend. It is not a rotation. Inhale to windmill those arms. Exhale. Keep going nice and slowly at your own pace. Inhale and exhale. Feel those heels nice and grounded. And again, you want to feel length. You want to reach up and then over. You don't want to feel like you're collapsing. You want to feel like you're really reaching up nice and high. So during this class, feel free to modify any of the movements that I do, and feel free to take water breaks at any time. So one thing I do want to say though is that, we often are in this like computer typing slouch position throughout the whole day, and we don't really raise our arms higher than our shoulders. So not only is this great for our spine, for the movement of it, but also it's great for our shoulder joints, getting that overhead reach. Do one more on each side. Inhale to windmill, exhale to side bend, and last time inhale and exhale. We're going to go into a squat, which is something we do every day. We sit down in a chair and we stand back up. So reach that tailbone back as if there's a chair behind you. Tailbone reaches back and then down. And you can go as low as you want. Keep those knees and toes aligned with each other. You can turn them out slightly, as long as they stay aligned with each other. Arms out for balance. Keep that chest up, abdominals braced. If you want to take your feet wider than what we currently have, go right ahead. And continue facing forward. I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see the side view. You can see that my chest does tilt forward a little bit, slightly, but my spine is still straight and in neutral. Again, getting range of motion in those shoulders, right? It's not just about working the hips, the knees, the ankles. We also want to get those shoulders. What we don't want to move right now is our spine. So we don't want to overly arch or overly round as we squat. We actually want to maintain that strong, straight, neutral. I'm going to stay facing the side just because it's a better profile view of a lunge. Now, don't do these lunges too deep. Just listen to your body. A lunge is actually similar to every time you take a step. You bend the knee, and with one leg, you straighten the knee, right, in order to go up to the next step. So lunges actually very much are a very functional movement. So take a nice long stride, feet are hip distance apart, and lower that back knee as low as you want. So we can do a mini lunge, just bending the back knee a little bit. Both knees will bend, but you want to initiate with the back knee. Try to keep that chest up, abs braced. Hold your arms out for balance as needed. Put it right on your hips. So I'm not going to go into a super deep lunge, but if you do want to go for depth, the lowest you would go is to about ankle height. So your goal isn't to place that back knee on the ground. Do about 3 more. This is also a great hip flexor stretch. If you think about it, your hip flexors are constantly bent. Look at the front leg. This is the hip flexor flexed in your normal seated position. And so this is a really nice stretch. You ready to go to the other side? Okay, so I'm just going to turn around. Again, you can stay facing forward. A little bit of a balance challenge when we have our legs in a lunge position. Remember to keep your feet at least hip distance apart for some of that lateral balance. Go as low as you want. Again, I recommend initiating the back knee, because what happens if you initiate by bending the front knee is this. You just end up leaning forward and the back knee doesn't really bend. So bend the back knee and the front knee will definitely bend. Bend the front knee and the back knee may not bend. 2 more. Good. And we're just going to go back to the first side again. So for, again, the lunge here, and I'm just staying profile. We're going to sort of add a little bit of movement. So I'm going to go into a mini lunge, and then I'm going to push off. So again, this sort of simulates stair climbing, right? Because you would have to propel yourself off the bottom step in order to go up to the next step. So even though it's not like a major propulsion when you climb stairs, it's really just a straightening of the front leg to then take the next step. It's very similar in principle. So think about sort of controlled push off. Do whatever you like with your arms. Eye gaze can be on the floor, 2 feet ahead of your toes. This helps with balance. And for just a brief moment, you're balancing on one leg before you step back into that lunge again. This is a really great way of kind of warming your body up for Pilates. Do one more here. The entire time your abs are nice and braced, your spine is staying nice and straight. So don't lift the legs so high that it makes your back arch. Okay, that's not our goal here. So for instance, I can show you what not to do. All right, you lunge, and then you kind of kick it up like that. But because we're squeezing our butt, squeezing our quads, and lengthening, straightening that back leg, and it's at a diagonal, to keep the spine in neutral or in that same alignment, my spine does have to tilt forward a little bit. Okay, I'm not trying to drop my chest intentionally. It's more like I'm just lowering my spine to maintain that length. You're probably feeling it a little bit in that front leg. Again, you don't have to bend too low. Remember, this is just sort of simulates stair climbing. That's one, that's one. All right, good. Let's go ahead and come to the feet of our mats, the foot of your mats, the base of your mats. However you want to view it. Look down the length of your mats, and we're going to go ahead and roll away from this, our imaginary wall. If you have any wrist sensitivities, feel free to just go ahead and sit down on the ground. We're all going to get there eventually. So here I've walked out into a plank. Not going to stay here too long. Go ahead and come to your knees. All right. Just kind of do a couple of these. Cat cows. Get some motion in the spine here. Allow the head and neck to move with the thoracic spine. And then go ahead and come to the seated position at the front half of your mats. Inhale, nice and tall. Exhale, flex the spine going halfway down. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, halfway back. Inhale. And exhale. All right, I'm gonna straighten my front leg as I roll halfway back. So my abs are drawn in. I'm just kind of shoving my heel out, really engaging the quads, dragging my heel back in. You can point the toe if you want. Doesn't matter, your choice. And then drag the heel back in. Exhale. Inhale. Remember to keep those shoulders relaxed away from the ears. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Really draw those abdominals in. As the challenge starts to get harder, we tend to like shrug our shoulders and create tension in other parts of our body. So the goal here is to try to keep that tension away from the shoulder neck area and focus on the abdominals. Last one. Go ahead and roll all the way down. So your neutral spine means that your lower back has a small space underneath it. Tailbone on the floor. I'm going to go ahead and imprint that lower back. So there's no space underneath the lower back. Tailbone is off the floor, and then lift the legs to tabletop. So knees are at 90 degrees. Knees right over the hips. Shins parallel. Exhale, lower. One leg, inhale, lift. So the only action is happening at the hip joint. Knee joint is staying still, 90 degrees. No movement in the ankle joint. I'm just keeping my toes pointed. And the spine stays in imprint. So really We're looking for a lot of stability here in our abdominal muscles. Mostly relaxed in the shoulder and neck area, while our hip flexors do active work, and our quads are stabilizing and our abs are stabilizing. Remember, you can always go at your own pace. It's one of the reasons I don't really focus too much on counting, because I could count, but we might all be going at a different pace and all in different numbers. Quality is always more important than quantity of movement. All right, so I'd rather you always err on being slower with more precise movement patterns than on doing things quickly and getting many repetitions in. One more on each side. And then we're gonna go ahead and lower with both legs. You don't have to go all the way to the floor unless you can maintain imprint when your toes hit the floor. So it's still quite a challenge, even if you go halfway down with your toes. Okay. Now we're quite fatigued here. Go ahead and release the heels. Place the feet down, and we're gonna roll it into our hip bridge. So engaging the glutes, the muscle around our pelvis or hips, roll on up. Articulation of the spine means we're gonna move vertebra by vertebra, inch by inch. This is a good time to really bring focus, not just to your breath, but also to what you feel in your spine. Right now, my tailbone's on the ground. I'm going to feel my lower back hit the mats as my tailbone lifts up. My pelvis comes off the floor. I feel my lower back come off the floor, then my mid back. My upper back shoulder blades obviously stay on the floor, right? Because that's the bridge we're making. And we're going for a neutral spine position. So I'm not trying to push my hips as high as possible. I'm just coming to neutral. Shoulder joint, hip joint, knee joint. And then same thing, as you're coming down, really pay attention. Bring that focus into what your body's feeling. So if our mind's wandering, we're thinking about our to-do list, other things we have to do, what we want to eat for dinner, sometimes that'll take away from our breathing, from our focus of our breathing. It is a good thing that breathing is involuntary, as in like it'll happen whether we think about it or not, because we would all be in big trouble if we had to concentrate on breathing and remember to breathe all the time. There's so much other stuff to think about. All right, we're going to get into our hundreds in a slightly different way. So go ahead and bring your legs back to tabletop. And we're going to just sort of do the bicycle leg movements. With this, you can go on the high diagonal, you can go on the lower diagonal. Just remember that lower diagonal is a little more challenging to the imprint. So go ahead and cycle your legs out, straightening one leg as you bend the other. I'm kind of aiming for about 45 degrees. So firing up the quads here. Abdominals are working. Now you have two choices. You can put your hands behind the head if your neck needs that support and you want to work your abs a little bit more, or you can reach your arms forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one leg switch, one ab prep, lower back down and switch. So the breath pattern is exhale, lift, inhale as you lower, and towards the end of that inhale, you switch your legs so that you're ready for the next exhale here. Inhale. Exhale. Look at your knees. Inhale. Keep that chin tucked, protect the neck muscle. Good. And the other option is here. Hands behind the head, supporting the neck. You do have to now lift the weight of your arms. It's a little more challenging for the abs, even though your neck's getting support. Try to keep the elbows nice and wide so you're not, pulling on your head and neck in any sort of way. All right, last one, and we're gonna go into the hundreds from here. So you can keep your legs bent, straight, or on the diagonal. Go ahead and pick and pump those arms. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 10. Inhale. Exhale. 20. Inhale. Exhale. 30. Inhale. Exhale. 40. Inhale. Exhale. 50. Inhale. Exhale. 60. Inhale. Exhale. Eyes on your knees. Keep reaching with those fingertips. We're on 80. Inhale. Exhale. 90. Inhale. Exhale. That is probably the only time in Pilates that I count. Come onto our stomach for spine work. This works on our posture and undoes our slouched spine. Take your feet apart, legs nice and straight, forearms on the ground for assisted spinal extension. So keeping the head, neck, and spine aligned as you lift the head, neck, and spine. Sorry, head, neck, and top half of the spine as one unit. So I'd say rib cage and above, as if you're wearing a neck brace. The chest and head come off pretty much almost at the same time. So instead of head and then chest, I almost just think of the chest coming up and the head just travels along with it. All right, we're going to take the hands down toward the feet. Might give us a little more lift as we reach toward the toes. And we're going to try a variation of swimming. You're probably familiar with this swimming. We're actually going to swim back here. So don't worry too much about the coordination and movements. What we're going to do really is we're going to lift and reach, hold, and then lift one leg at a time and then the other. So it's just a variation of what you see, what you've seen before. When our arms are reaching back behind us, it's a little easier than if our arms are reaching ahead of us. So this is our first spine extension of the day, so not making it super, not doing the most challenging version. If at any point you need a break, just lower back down and then come back up and join in. So this is a little bit of spine endurance since we are keeping our rib cage, top of the rib cage elevated for a little longer as you keep alternating the breath. Good, let's end in 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. When I lift the legs, it's not worried, I'm never worried about how high I lift. It's about trying to keep the legs straight and really extending from the hips, squeezing that butt muscle. In order to keep the legs straight, you also are squeezing your quadriceps. Don't worry, we'll do that again, so you'll see it. First, you're going to go into the full roll up. Then go ahead and lay it all the way down. But I'm actually going to straighten one leg only. Good. And the nice thing about having one knee bent is if you need it for assistance to help with the roll up, there's a little sticky phase. You can straighten the leg for that purpose. Inhale, reach the arms, nod the chin. If you find yourself getting stuck, you can kick the leg out a little faster. If you feel that you can roll up really without the leg, you can just slowly straighten it nice and easy. All right, so you dictate how quickly you'll be straightening that bent knee. So get yourself into our hamstring stretch position. As I roll down, I'm going to be dragging in the heel of the other leg. So since my back leg was bent first, now I'm going to bend the front leg. Same thing. Inhale, arms reach, nod the chin, exhale. Fire up those quadriceps as you dive forward into the hamstring stretch. Inhale, start to roll back. As you roll down, exhale, slowly dragging the knees, the knee back on the floor. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Looking for a nice, smooth flow. Try to remember to keep those shoulders down away from the ears. We're trying to work on our abdominals here and not create tension in the shoulder or neck area. We're going to do 2 more. And if you want to keep your legs straight the entire time, oh, gotta adjust the pants already. If you want to keep your legs straight the entire time, of course, that's an option. First time you do a hamstring stretch, it might be really, really tight, barely getting to your toes. With subsequent roll-ups, you should hopefully feel a little more flexibility and less tightening in the hamstrings, so you can reach a little further. All right. And we're going to go to the rest of our F series. So we kind of did a version earlier where the bicycle legs and then we did crunch. We're going to do that again, adding rotation. So go ahead and so we've already done this earlier, so I'm not going to do it again. But what I'm going to do is have our hands behind the head, do a switch, and then instead of coming straight up, it's going to be a rotation. So I'm going to come up and then over towards the bent knee. And the reason why I want to come up first is to get both shoulder blades off the floor, right? Because if I just rotate, I just basically roll onto my shoulder blade. I haven't even lifted off the floor. I'm not using abs here, I'm just rotating. So think up and then over. Good, and then back to center and down. It can be one smooth motion. Switch up and over, center and down. Good. So again, that nice, smooth rotation emphasizes the up first. So by the time I rotate, both of my shoulder blades are off the ground. I can feel that the shoulder blades are off the ground, especially that bottom one. Switch, exhale, rotate. The breathing that works for you, I generally like to exhale as I exert, lift, and rotate. Inhale, then lower, and then again, that switch happens at the tail end of that inhale. Let's do one more on each side. We started, I think, on this side. Finish here. Good, it's a double leg stretch. Generally, you reach open on the diagonal, any diagonal you want with the arms. But this time, let's actually circle the arms down to the side and bring them back up to me. So if you want to do with your head, neck, and shoulders lifted, you'd reach and then circle down. Reach, circle down. Exhale, inhale. If you take your legs lower on the diagonal, it's a little more challenging to maintain that imprint. It's harder for your abs in order to keep that lower back down on the ground. You can keep that chin tucked, eye gaze on the knees. If your shoulder blades are lifted. If they're not, then your eyes are going to be looking at the ceiling. I still feel a lot of work in the abs, even if my head and shoulder blades are on the ground. Okay, last one. Go into our scissors. I'm going to try a variation of scissors today. So scissors is usually the leg straight, just switching it back and forth, alternating. We're going to do 3 switches. Switch for 3, 2, 1. Relax. Are we relaxed? All right, we're going to come back up by straightening both legs like we're starting scissors all over again. Switch for 3, 2, 1. You should have the other leg up, right? As long as we're doing an odd number, we should have the different leg up. Reach up. Switch for 3, 2, 1. Relax. Switch for 3, 2, 1. Exhaling here. 3, 2, 1. Last time, last triple. For 3, 2, and 1. Good. All right, let's give our abs a little break and come back onto our stomach. So we're going to get some range of motion in our shoulders. So remember I said anytime our arms are ahead of us, that it's more challenging for our spine to lift, right? So we're just going to have one arm forward, and then we're going to windmill it and have the other arm forward. I'll start here so you can see this arm, because when it's low, it's kind of hidden. So let's keep our feet on the ground for now. We're going to inhale to lift the chest, keeping the head, neckline, and spine. Rotate, windmill that arm, and then lower. Inhale, lift. Rotate, exhale, lower. Inhale, lift, and rotate. Feel free to breathe as needed. Depending on how fast you're moving, you may need to take extra breaths. And if you would like to lift your legs, remember the legs are going to stay straight. They're going to stay separated. We're going to really try to squeeze the butt and the quadriceps. So lift, windmill. Lower everything. Lift everything. Windmill. Okay. And again, this is all about getting range of motion in our shoulders while we're working on our spine muscles. Try to keep your arms as straight as possible. So you're activating those triceps. Last one. Good. Go ahead and sit back and around the spine. What is this on the floor here? Looks like a diamond, but I don't have diamonds around here. Anyways, I was like, what is the sparkly thing here? Okay, so time for the side. Use the edge of your mat to make sure your body's straight. We're going to do 3 variations of leg lifts. Okay, this is the first variation. We're lying on the ground. We're going to prop up on the elbow, and we're going to get on our knees and hands. So feel free to stay at any variation you want. So I'm going to do 3 variations. You can stay with version 1 the whole time. You can do version 1 and 2, and then stay with version 2 and not do version 3. So for this, we're going to have you keep the feet flexed and parallel to each other. Just because it's easier to tell that you haven't externally rotated. See, when my toes point up, it's external rotation. Really easy to tell if you've done that. Proprioception is knowing what your body's doing even when you're not looking at it. So I'm not looking at my feet because if I were, my head is out of alignment. But I can feel that I have not externally rotated. I can feel what external rotation feels like. So I know what the muscles feel like. I know what muscles are active and not. Here you have to control how high you lift the leg. You'll notice if you start to lift too high, your leg will naturally start to externally rotate. So for now, we just have to restrict to probably no higher than hip or shoulder, keeping the toes facing forward and your kneecaps facing forward. Top hand is just the kickstand here. Good. Quads are engaged, right? Because we want the leg nice and straight. And then actively flexing the foot. So you start to feel a little bit in the anterior tibialis. So the muscle right around your shin bone. I'm going to go to level option 2 or variation 2. I guess we can call it levels. They do get progressively a little more challenging. So here you want to stay lifted through the oblique and through the shoulder. If it helps you to lift the top arm to remind yourself not to sink into the shoulder, then go ahead and lift the arm. but really you can do whatever you want with the top arm. When we're propped up like this, again, you want to stay lifted here through the oblique too, because you can definitely collapse in the torso as well as in the shoulder. So there's two places you can collapse, which we're trying to avoid. And then we have, once again, our straight leg in neutral position, so we're not externally rotated. Now that our torso is propped up, it kind of restricts how high we can lift the leg, right? We don't have to think about it as much. We can just feel it. Like, I don't really want to lift much higher here. But if I were to externally rotate, see how that just kind of changes the exercise. Not only that, it works a different muscle group and it forces me to pike, right? It just changes my body position. So just be aware of that as you lift your leg. We're still working that same muscle, this outer thigh muscle. This is called abduction, moving away from the midline. All right, we're starting to get fatigued, so quality over quantity. Let's not do too much. We don't want to do so many that our form starts to go. This is the last final version. We are on our wrists and knees, so if that's not comfortable for you, you can keep working on your inner thighs by staying in your elbow position or even lying all the way back down. Feel free to roll up your mat if your knee needs extra cushioning. I use the edge of my mats to make sure that my whole body is in the same plane. Okay, so here's the wall. My arm, chest, face, everything. This is piked away from the wall, against the wall. Same thing. You don't want to collapse in the shoulder. You want to feel lifted here, lifted here. I don't know if you can see that my shoulder pops out basically when I settle in the joint. You don't want to settle in the joint. And then same thing. In this position, most likely you do not want, or you can't lift higher than your hips. Very challenging here. Again, watch that you don't pike away and kick your leg forward. It is a lateral movement. Again, I'm not great at counting, and everyone, I just want you to go at your own pace and focus on quality over quantity. The other muscle that's really working a lot is your stabilizers on the bottom leg. Sometimes that cramps up and gets fatigued sooner than your moving leg. Do two more. Okay, great. So let's get off our knees, get off the wrists. We're gonna go back all the way to the ground on the other side. Remember, you can grab water at any time. Same thing, we're gonna use our kickstand hand to stabilize our body. Our abs are also helping to stabilize. I tend to do a lot of these because I would say they aren't as challenging as the other variations. But with time, these do get fatigued. Over time, your outer thigh muscles and your quads should start to fatigue if you are properly engaging them. It's just that compared to the other ones, because of our torso position, this is a little easier, so you can do more reps before you fatigue. If your leg muscles are not engaged, you could probably do hundreds and not ever fatigue because the right muscles aren't engaged. Keep alternating the breath. You can inhale to lift or exhale to lift. Your body sometimes has a tendency to just want to breathe a certain way. And if it happens to be the opposite of what I'm saying, like if I'm saying exhale and you happen to be inhaling, don't worry about it. It's not wrong. The only wrong way to breathe is to stop breathing. All right, I'm actually starting to feel it there, so we can go ahead and pause and prop ourselves up. I should mention that, do what's comfortable for your hand, whether it's at 45 degrees or sort of straight ahead. Do what works for you. The important thing is that your shoulders and your obliques stay lifted, okay? And now we're here. My top leg is undoubtedly engaged, right? My quads and my outer thighs, but it helps to actually engage the bottom leg too. It helps to stabilize you versus completely relaxing the bottom leg. Helps to just engage everything. So whatever you did on the first side, you should do on this side just to be symmetrical. So if you stayed on the ground the whole time, then do that again for this side. If you stayed at variation 2, which is this version, then stay at this the whole time. Do a couple more. Okay, and then the final version. Gonna roll up my mat again. Just feels a little more comfortable on this hardwood floor to have extra cushion under the kneecaps. Again, it's really easy to want to externally rotate the lifting leg because it's easier. We will default to what's an easier movement pattern. We're going to default to the muscles that are dominant, which is our quads and hip flexors. Our outer thighs are not as dominant. We don't walk sideways. We don't do many things sideways, which is why our outer thighs are not as strong as our quadriceps and hip flexors. We walk forward a lot. We climb upstairs going forward, right? We don't like go up the stairs backwards. So those are all going to be hip flexor quad dominant movements. All right, 3 more. Good. Again, it's all about being challenged. The repetition is not like the biggest factor. It's about feeling that challenge with the right technique. All right, let's do a quick stretch here. Ankle over the opposite thigh. Feel a nice stretch there. Found some random stuff stuck to me. I think with all the cleaning I do with my floor, that I pick up everything, but there's always something to be found. Especially my hair. My hair is just everywhere. Okay, we're going to go into our hip bridge, which we did a little bit in warm up. Hip bridge, feet are hip distance apart. When you drive the hips up, this time without articulation, it's all about pressing to the heels, engaging the glutes, and getting our hips to the same height. And when we take away a leg, we still want the hips to go the same height. So that means the remaining glute has to do a lot of work, a lot of extra. So we're going to just do some alternating kicks. So lift the hip, lift one leg to tabletop, kick it to the ceiling. So it's a kick, but it's a really slow kick. You'll feel your quads engaged and you'll feel your hamstring stretch. It's called reciprocal inhibition, where when you engage one muscle, the opposite will relax. So other side, lift, engage the quads, stretch the hands, right? That's hopefully the hamstring relaxing. Bend and return. Go ahead and lower the hips. So you don't need to articulate now, just drop everything and then lift everything as one unit. Good. So again, when you lift the leg, you know you're going to lift it, so you can mentally prepare to shift all your weight over to the other leg, other butt cheek. And now here, you can redistribute the weight equally, and then now shift it over. Good, come on down. So if we were all in the same room, let's say I'm teaching this in person, and I said, hey, I'm going to come around, and I'm going to shove you. Don't let me shove you over. Well, if you know there's a chance I might come over and like shove you like this, what are you going to do? You're going to be really, really braced. You're going to brace your abs. You're going to squeeze your butt. I mean, you're just going to be super, super braced so that when I come over, it's like nothing happened, a bare nudge. Whereas if you weren't prepared, you completely fall over. That's kind of the mindset you want to be here. So everything's really braced. And you're going to lift the leg. You're still really braced. Kick, extend, bend, down. Now, if you need to put your butt down, put it down at any time. I'm going to actually stay up for a little longer and keep alternating. If you've ever done kickboxing, you lift the knee first and then you kick. And by the way, you don't have to point your toes. If you want, you can flex the foot, kick,
When you flex the foot, it's definitely a little more of a hamstring calf stretch. A lot tougher when your foot's flexed here as you straighten your leg. So keep that nice braced position. Look at my hips. Hopefully it's not moving. It's staying at the same height as I alternate kicking the leg. Kick. Again, it's a slow motion kick, right? Because we don't want to just kick like this, really out of control. It's like a slow motion kick, fully controlled. Lower your hips in between each kick if you need to. Last 2 kicks. All right, good. Come on down. If you ever feel any pain in your lower back while doing the hip bridge, just lower your hips a little bit, right? It could mean that you are pushing your hips up too much and it's just starting to get into your lower back. So the easiest way to relieve that is to just lower your hips a little bit.
We're gonna get into a plank. We're gonna alternate, actually, sorry, I had to adjust my pants. We're gonna alternate between a knee plank and toes. So basically the goal is that you wanna maintain a straight line from shoulder. So the ears, shoulders, hips, and knees. All right, a lot of times, and you can do this on the wrist or on the elbows. Actually, I'm gonna start on the elbows and then I'm gonna move to the wrist. So a lot of times what happens is when people are on their knees, their butt sticks out like this, right? So let's first start by getting into our straight body toe plank or full plank, elbows underneath the shoulders, toes tucked under, hips in line with the shoulders, ankles, and knees. So if I'm really bracing in my abs and squeezing my butt, then it means I have a neutral pelvis, neutral spine position. If I drop to my knees, whether you do it 1 at a time or 2, what shouldn't happen is this, right? That's what we're trying to avoid. So we're here, and I'm gonna just keep my abs and butt braced, and I'm gonna just drop to my knees. And hopefully, again, don't look at your butt. It's not about the curviness or the shape of your butt. It's about the joints. Is there still a straight line from your ears, shoulders, hips, and knees? Here's my hip bone, down here, not up here. Hip bone's here, and then pop it back up, and knees down again. When you come off your knees, you're firing up your quads, and reaching your heels to the back of the room. Let's try 2 more times. Exhale, straighten. Inhale, bend. Exhale, straighten. Inhale, bend. All right, take a quick break. I'm gonna just have you try this on your wrist. And again, feel free to stay on your elbows. It just feels a little different when you're on your wrist compared to your elbows. But the main thing that I really wanna emphasize is this whole lumbopelvic hip area, really maintaining this neutral position and not breaking into that flexed position. The wrist underneath the shoulders. I find it easier to start in a straight position with the toes and then really feeling that neutral hip position and then going to the knees. So here, because if I start on my knees, sometimes I do stick my butt up. All right, at your own pace. Lower. And by the way, if you want, you can do it 1 at a time. 1 at a time. All right, because everyone's different, so you know your body best. It might not feel good to go into on both knees and come out of on both knees. So again, if you're looking at your hip joint area, your pelvis, you want that to stay the same. And the only thing that's straightening and bending is your knees. Exhale, reach the heel back, fire up the quads, inhale, bend the knees. Last time, exhale, inhale. Good. All right, come on out of that. Let's do a few teasers. Teasers, we're gonna look for flow. So as you reach your arms toward your toes, you're gonna anticipate that you're gonna feel stuck. So here's the inhale. You're gonna exhale to extend those legs. Inhale for a pause at the top. Open up into a boat pose. Feel the work in the abs. Here you're exhaling. And then finally lower onto your spine, pull the knees in, and you're back to start position.
Here's our second pause. For both pauses, we're inhaling. So inhale, start to reach up. Exhale. Inhale, pause. Exhale, start to reach down. Inhale or pause. Start to reach up. Exhale. You want to keep the legs straight. There's always going to be a curve in your spine for teasers at the top. So that isn't your main goal, is to try to straighten up your spine. Your main goal is to try to be moving in slow, controlled pattern so that you feel your abdominals. Let's try let's do 3 more. Inhale. Your pause is also a very small pause. You're not hanging out there for a really long time. It's like as soon as you get your head on the ground, you immediately start to raise your arms again. As soon as you reach your peak balance here, you pretty much immediately start to lower. Everything's just happening in a really slow flow, really controlled motion. Kind of no beginning and end to this position. Again, that pause is just really, really, really brief. Okay, I think that was 5 or 6. I am going to end on our hands and knees. And again, feel free, if you have any wrist sensitivities, to be on your stomach. We did something similar earlier. This motion, again, just getting range of motion to the shoulders. Okay? We did that on our stomach earlier, and I just want to bring that to the spinal balance. So the knees are underneath the hips and the wrists are underneath the shoulders. I'm going to extend my back leg to give myself a little balance challenge, engage the glutes. I'm going to reach the front arm forward, and then I'm going to make that semicircle and reach down. And I'm going to continue. Inhale, reach forward, exhale, reach back. Nothing is moving in my body other than that front arm as we do the full range of motion for that shoulder. Exhale, reach back. So brace your abs, squeeze that straight leg. You want to be in a strong spinal balance position while this arm freely moves from overhead to below. All right, finish here. And let's try the other side. All right, again, this is all about finding stability while there is some limb trying to sort of affect that stability. It's kind of the principle of hundreds too. Basically, you're trying to hold your body still while your arms are pumping. In this case, your arms aren't pumping, but they're moving. You might feel a little bit of impingement in your shoulders. If that's the case, listen to your body. You don't have to bring your biceps right next to your ear. You can pause on a diagonal if you like. Do try to keep the arm straight if you can. Spine should be in neutral. Again, move as slowly as you need to and want to, because ultimately you don't want to move your arm so fast that it causes your whole body to shake and, creating stability. One more time. Inhale, reach forward. Exhale, reach back. And then finish reaching forward and hands down. And then just go ahead and take a couple of exhales and inhales into the cats and then the cow. So to do this not on your wrists, you can be right here, round the spine, lift the chest, arch the back, round the spine, separate the shoulder blades, lift the chest, squeeze the shoulder blades together. So same thing if you are on your hands and knees. Separate the shoulder blades, round the spine, tuck the tailbone under. Take the head with you. Let's not forget that. The head and neck is part of the spine. It's an extension of the spine. So when our spine is in a rounded rainbow curve, you want the tailbone tucked under, and you want the head also dropped, chin slightly tucked, right? Because it's part of that rainbow curve. And then when you do the opposite, the smile, your tailbone's up, your chest is up,
You don't want to hyperextend your neck by straining to look up, but you do want your head and neck to be part of that curve of the smile. I would say if you looked at the end of your yoga mat, your Pilates mat, that's a good spot to look at. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me for Pilates. Hope you liked it. So I've been starting Pilates classes with some stand-up movements lately. So feel free to give me feedback on whether you like that and want to continue it, or I can go back to the, the more typical warm-up that I've been doing.
I liked
All right.
it.